I stepped into my yard to meet my parents, but instead, I was met with a nightmare. At the entrance to my own property hung a huge sign, "No trespassing. Violators will be fined." And next to it stood her, Karen, the self-absorbed HOA president, arms crossed and smirking. "What the hell is going on, Karen?"
Oh, haven't you seen the latest ordinance? Families who don't live in the neighborhood are now banned. It's for safety and to maintain the elite status of our community.
I couldn't believe my ears. She had banned my family, my parents, my brother, my grandmother, and my grandfather from visiting my home. And this was only the beginning. Things quickly spiraled out of control. I lived in a quiet, respectable neighborhood where everything was peaceful and orderly. People took care of their lawns, kids rode bikes on the streets, and neighbors treated each other with respect. Everything ran smoothly until Karen became the HOA president. She came in like a hurricane and immediately started enforcing her own rules. At first, they seemed like minor annoyances. She banned red cars from being parked near houses because she thought they didn't fit the neighborhood's aesthetic. She started issuing fines for overly bright flowers. If flower beds were too extravagant, the owners were punished. People were afraid to put up Christmas decorations because Karen could declare them visual clutter. But when she banned my family from visiting my home, it became personal. I came home from work and saw a new sign at my driveway entrance. "No trespassing. Guests require special HOA permission." What kind of nonsense was this? I marched straight to Karen's house. She was in her yard, chatting with a couple of neighbors. But when she saw me, she gave me a sickeningly sweet smile.
Oh, hello. Have you seen the new rules?
"You can't do this!" My voice carried a sharp edge of anger. "This is my home, and I have the right to invite guests." Karen scoffed and pulled out a piece of paper from her bright pink folder.
No, you don't. You can spend time with them somewhere else, but not here.
I snatched the paper from her hands and skimmed through it. It looked official at first glance, but as I read, I nearly laughed out loud. This law, supposedly banning guests from the premises, was nothing more than Karen's personal invention. No legal authority had validated it. "You do realize this is illegal, right?" I asked.
Oh, sweetheart, you can complain to whoever you want. It's already decided.
She turned on her heel and walked away, completely confident in her power. But Karen had no idea that I wasn't going to give up so easily. I thought this was just an intimidation tactic and that my family would simply arrive the next day as usual. But I was wrong. When my parents pulled up to my house, they were stopped by HOA security guards.
Sorry, but without HOA approval, entry is prohibited.
The HOA has no right to restrict private property access. Remove the barricade.
We're just following orders.
Orders? From who? Karen? Does she think she's above the law now?
The guard remained silent. I watched from a distance, and at that moment I realized this war was just beginning. Karen started terrorizing me. At first it was just fines. Every time someone visited me, another violation notice appeared in my mailbox. A fine for parking on my own driveway. A fine for excessive activity on the property, meaning a simple barbecue with friends. A fine for illegal gatherings, as if my home had suddenly become the secret headquarters of an underground organization. Then came the HOA security guards. They patrolled the streets, recorded the license plates of my guests' cars, and even threatened to call a tow truck. One of them, particularly zealous, stood near my house so often that I started wondering if Karen was giving them bonuses for harassing me. But the final straw was the cameras. One morning, I stepped onto my porch and noticed a small black device attached to a streetlight pole across from my house. Then I found another camera hidden in the bushes near my driveway. Karen had clearly crossed the line. She thought she had intimidated me, thought I would surrender and start following her ridiculous rules, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. I methodically began gathering evidence. I recorded conversations with the security guards where they admitted they were following Karen's personal orders. I saved copies of all the fines and violation notices. I filmed the cameras installed without my permission and traced where the data was being sent. Turns out, the footage was streaming directly to Karen's phone. That was my final argument. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. "Dad, it's time to teach Karen a lesson." I said, sending him all the collected materials. A short chuckle came from the other end of the line.
Son, I'm already on it.
A week later, the neighborhood fell into chaos. It started as a routine HOA meeting. Karen, as always, took her seat at the head of the table, looking down on everyone with arrogant superiority. She felt completely secure, confident that her grip on the neighborhood was unshakable. But just as she opened her mouth to begin the meeting, the doors of the hall burst open. The heavy stomp of boots shattered the silence. Several police officers entered, followed by a court officer. Their presence caused immediate panic among the HOA members. Some began whispering nervously, others hastily put away their phones to avoid being caught recording. At the head of the procession, with an impassive expression, walked my father. Karen jumped up from her chair.
What is going on here?
Her voice wavered, but she quickly regained her composure.
This is a private meeting. You have no right.
Oh, Mrs. Peterson, I have far more rights than you'd like to believe.
My father placed a thick folder of documents on the table.
You have overstepped your authority. The HOA does not have the right to forbid private individuals from visiting their relatives' homes.
Karen froze. A flicker of doubt crossed her face, but she quickly recovered.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She said icily, crossing her arms.
Oh, you do?
My father replied with certainty.
And more than that, I conducted an investigation into your activities. It turns out you've broken not only private property laws, but also several city regulations.
That's impossible.
She muttered, stepping back.
Oh, it's very possible.
My father let the words hang in the air for dramatic effect before pulling out a single sheet of paper.
This is a court ruling. As a result,
He stepped forward.
I'm signing an order to dissolve your HOA.
The room fell into complete silence. Karen swallowed hard.
You can't do this.
She shouted, but her voice cracked.
I can, and I already have.
My father responded calmly. He gestured toward the court officer, who unrolled another document and began reading it aloud. The crowd murmured. People looked at Karen, but no longer with fear. Now it was with contempt and satisfaction.
And one more thing.
My father continued.
You, Mrs. Peterson, are permanently banned from holding any administrative positions in this district.
Karen gasped for air like a fish thrown onto the shore, her chest rising and falling rapidly as if each breath was a fight for life. Every step she had taken, every decision she had made seemed right until reality hit her with such force that she couldn't find the words. All that was left for her was to stand there and try to comprehend how she ended up in this position.